Guess what? Sunday Sanctuary is produced by a non-profit, which makes perfect sense, right? And it's also quite fun because you never know where the money's going to come from. So this is your invitation to join that fun by supporting this kaupapa and helping to share something you love with even more people looking for soul-nourishing spiritual conversations. It's simple. You can choose between a one-off donation or become a regular supporter and help Sam and I keep making Sunday Sanctuary. To give now, head to our website, sundaysanctuary.nz. Kia ora, and thank you.
Maybe I can find my treasure. There's so much for me to do. Maybe I can find my treasure. Maybe my treasure rests in you.
Sunday Sanctuary with Petra Bagust.
E ngā manu, e ngā reo, mai ngā hau e whā. Tatu mai nei ki te manga o tēnei rākau whakaruruhau. Tau mai nei ki tēnei kaupapa e papahu atu nei. Kia koutoa rā, ko Sunday Sanctuary. Ko Petra Bagust tēnei. E rere ana, ngā mihi, kia koutou katoa. To everyone from each corner of this country, come and rest on the branch of this sheltered tree. You're welcome to this project, this space, Sunday Sanctuary. I'm Petra Bagust, and I acknowledge you all. Today's episode, Why Church, is a collaboration with Michael Frost's podcast called In the Shift. His subheading is For When Life and Faith Go Off Script. Michael is a teacher and researcher in the areas of theology, spirituality, and social change. And In the Shift started out of his own experiences in church and in the deconstruction and reconstruction of his own Christian faith. We're going to follow our usual rhythm in this episode, and our format is inspired by a liturgical church service. So it has all these moments in it, like waiata and benediction and communion. My conversation with Frosty, as I say, will be in two parts. We talked for about an hour, so if you'd like to hear the rest of the conversation that isn't here, you can look for In the Shift in whatever podcast app you're using right now. To give you a tiny bit more context, Michael and I have been talking about doing a collaboration for a while, and since COVID, there are a lot of people who are no longer part of church communities. And for many, that's been a relief or a release. And for some, it seems like a loss. And for others, it can feel a bit like no man's land. Maybe like being part of a soccer team, but not having anyone to play with. So because Michael and I are both part of faith communities, I thought, why not have a chat about where we're at and what's going on? Let's talk Why Church with Dr. Michael Frost. Dr. Michael Frost, I believe that's your name.
Media celebrity Petra Bagust. Is that how we should refer to each other throughout this?
Theologian and Christian renegade Frosty.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah?
Yeah, renegade, okay. I like that.
Yeah. We've talked about a collaboration for a wee while.
We have.
So it's very cool. Welcome to the Sunday Sanctuary studio.
Yes.
Very cool to be hanging out and talking with you.
And welcome to In the Shift.
I know, I love it.
This is great.
I've always wanted to be in two places at once.
Yeah, well, this is it. This is your moment. And this is like two people used to hosting podcasts, trying to have a conversation with each other, which I love. Love that.
So in talking about doing a collaboration, and this probably won't make the cut, but...
It might make my cut.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
That's up to you. That's for you, you to know and me to find out. This concept of capital C church came up. And it's this idea that in a spiritual space where there's a lot of deconstruction, a lot of looking at the ways the institution has worked and not worked, and what is the point? What is the purpose? Why? So there's this I feel like there's a deconstruction that can lead, and I've said it before, to a destruction of faith. Like there is nothing left at the end of the deconstruction. There's a pile of wood on the ground. For some people, there's a reconstruction where they rebuild their faith. For some people, there's a wending and a wandering, and that all seems to be possible. And yet here I find myself still going to church, and you happen to lead a church.
I do. And there is, I've talked a little bit about this on my pod, but there's a strange irony to that.
Yes.
Because so much of my energy over the last few years, at least in this kind of space, has been doing this kind of hard, uncomfortable work of talking about the ways in which the church has failed people, really, harmed people. Because in our context, at least here in New Zealand, didn't seem like a lot of people were willing to have that conversation. And so there's this strange experience of being involved in leading a church whilst also talking about all of the ways in which the church can be a difficult space for people to be in. And now we find ourselves even, in the shift, wanting to have some conversations about church. It's not some kind of convincing episode to say, all those people who have been hurt, now we want to sort of convince you into it again.
Pivot.
As much as to say, even with all of what has, I think, come out, and this has not just been the last few years, we go back a number of, decades now into the, abuse scandals within the Catholic Church, and the way in which we now understand the church to be tied up with colonization. And there are all sorts of reasons why we might view the church through a more critical lens than perhaps we used to 50 or 100 years ago.
Yep.
And yet, I think we're also seeing the way in which the loss of some kind of collective or community like church is also having a really significant impact on people. And so how can we talk about it in ways that acknowledge that tension, but are also able to say what here is actually good.
Confession, I think it might have been a conversation with your wife that first introduced me very clearly to the concept of binary thinking years ago. And it had a bit of a profound landing effect. It landed in my brain as, oh my goodness, it is so much easier to exist in a world where we discover something is bad or caused harm and we ditch it. It's bad and it's caused harm and it's out. And I think it happens with people, with institutions, with ideas. It's a much more messy, complex, engaging, chewy scenario to see a situation or a human or an organisation causing some harm and not ditch it. To be like, so this is this is the downside, this is the upside. Where do they meet and how does it shake down? Like that idea that, in fact, I might engage with somebody and they are a truly difficult person, but they're good somewhere doing something, they don't get struck out. Whereas even though we understand now about not thinking the binary way, we still as humans, we want a simple solution. We want to know this is good and this is bad, don't you think?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it sells. It's easy. It helps us feel comfortable.
You can get in behind it. You've got clarity.
Yeah, everything's clear and you know what to do and you know who the goodies and the baddies are or whatever, and that's very appealing. And I think sometimes there's even a distinction between what can be true at an individual or right or appropriate at an individual level versus what we need to think about more collectively. So it may be that for someone, because of their particular experience, whether that's in the church or elsewhere, there's plenty of harm in the world being done to people, that they have to push away from something to be safe or because...
And to heal.
Yeah, and to heal. And sometimes there's no coming back from that. Sometimes.
That's true.
When that damage and harm is significant enough.
Yeah.
But then collectively... we might also be able to say, okay, we're not going to ask that person to do this work, but we might still need to think about whether that institution, even though it did this, is a complicit in this particular harm, might in a larger sense still have something also to be redeemed from it. It might not be that person's job define that, but maybe do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
that sense that collectively, and we're not very good maybe at thinking.
Yeah, I was going to say we almost need upschooling and collective thinking.
Yeah.
Because we're coming out of, or we are on the tail end of, an age of individualism, where who we are as individuals is paramount, and it's my personal relationship with the divine, or my personal brand in, the interweb. It's this, who am I? And I'm a self-made human, and nothing before me is impossible, and nothing behind me exists. Like, I think that there's this very short-term mentality. Can we pull it around to, I'd love you to define, what's your definition of church? There's a little, don't even try and ask it back.
It's funny because I've just taught a semester-long class on ecclesiology, which is, a theology of the church.
So you're totally up to
I'm trying to think of at any point I gave a simple definition of the term. I probably didn't. Much to the annoyance, chagrin. That's right, of the people in my class. Yeah. Because there are depending on the tradition, there are different ways of defining like what the church is, and so a Catholic answer is going to be very different from a Protestant answer, and an Anglican answer is going to be very different from a Baptist answer, and a Pentecostal answer is going to be different from everybody. So how do I think about it, I suppose, is I come from a church tradition, if I'm going to call it that way, that thinks about it as a voluntary collective of people who have chosen to be a community together, oriented around the story and gospel of Jesus, and to have their lives shaped by that story in community with one another. I think that's the way I think about it.
Oh, that's nicely done.
Oh, thank you. I did it. Oh, I did it. Should have told the students that.
Yeah. So then the word community is in your definition, right?
It is. And this is part of the challenge, I think, because if we think kind of historically a little bit, we rewind back to kind of prior to the 1960s. Individualism was on its march already in the West, in Western European context at least. But church had been still quite central to Western European identity. The kind of the parish model, where you had a church in the middle of a geographical location. Many, Anglicans and Methodists and others still operate on that kind of model conceptually.
So it's a community that tends to its geographic location.
Yeah, that's right.
The needs of that community.
And that church holds people from birth to death. There are often cemeteries outside the church, because a part of the role of the church is to take people through that whole experience all the way through to the end, And people tended to live in one area for a long time.
Yes, they did.
So that was more possible as well. In the 1960s, people started, growing their hair long. And
catching aeroplanes to the other side of the world.
The world started to change. Music and culture and hippies and contraceptive pill and so much was happening in that kind of time that
the old school was right after all.
that changed.
Yep.
And I don't find it very helpful to think about it was good and then it became bad, or it was bad and then it became good. I don't that binary again, right?
Doesn't
more
work.
To say what changed and what impact has that change had, and some of those changes have been really good, and some of those changes have been challenging to navigate.
Yeah.
But in that time, people started detaching from those institutional loyalties. So, I was an Anglican, and my parents were Anglicans, and my grandparents were Anglicans, and we all came to this parish, and that changed because, for a whole lot of reasons, I suppose. More individualism hitting, but also people became a bit more suspicious of the claims of those institutions, started to see the ways in, civil rights and in New Zealand, Indigenous rights and, Māori protest and Treaty of Waitangi, and came back into the conversation. People started to ask questions about the church and colonization and the church and power and how it had used its power, and feminism started coming through, and women started saying, hang on, we've been excluded from all sorts of things because of the way the patriarchy in the church. And so for all of these reasons, people start moving away from these institutional loyalties and towards all sorts of other things. So that's kind of the growing secularization, of Western Europeans. But the church then has to kind of reposition itself, and so we end up with kind of a free market church. So now you're sort of competing for people because it's not geographic anymore. You're not serving your local community. People aren't even staying in their community long enough, maybe, depending on especially if you're in a city.
Mm-hmm.
And so that idea of kind of collectives or communities where you stay with people for a long time over time, especially within, in New Zealand, more Pākehā spaces. I think Indigenous cultures, Pacifica cultures here have a very different relationship with this than we do, right?
They do, yeah. I agree. Yeah.
My friend Shane, who is on In the Shift a lot, he has this phrase of out of the frying pan and into the void, where he's kind of describing this movement from, so we were in these institutions that were to varying degrees, perhaps controlling, aligned with power, or, all that kind of stuff. We saw the problems with that. We may have experienced the problems with that. And then we come out from that connection, understandably so, pushing away from it. But where does that kind of leave us? It leaves us floating, not necessarily with rituals, anchoring, grounding, community, connection, collective identity, getting used to working things out in like communities with one another, belonging. And I think we're probably seeing some of the impacts of that, right?
What would you say are the impacts of that?
I see how you've swung into questioning me.
I'm just creating space,
you know
Frosty.
what you're doing.
I'm actually interested. I like how you put things.
Well, I think there's a few different things. One is that for as long as humans have been around, ritual, song, storytelling have been central, pivotal to identity, to belonging, to community. And we now live in a time where ritual, storytelling and song really aren't experienced by a significant number of people in any kind of collective way. We listen to music, sure.
We pay to go to a concert.
We pay to go to a concert, but do we... Yeah,
we pick our story from our streaming platform.
Yeah.
We join a sports club.
Yeah, but even that is, the clubs are struggling as well. Because a lot of these things impinge on our freedoms, quote unquote, to, if we want to stay open and flexible and fluid to whatever best choice comes along. So I think we're missing that, and that means people feel less grounded. And then the communal aspect of that, the regular inhabiting of common space with the same people over time, which gives you a sense, again, like you're not having to figure out your identity on your own in that sense. Whereas I think for a lot of people, what comes with the freedom of self-discovery and self-formation is the pressure of, well, who am I then? Like, how do I even figure out like who I am in the world? And that might not even be a conscious anxiety, but I think it's like there, right?
I really think it is there. I really think it is there without realizing it, without boundaries, that limitless possibility. It's an illusion. There are always limits. Well, I remember thinking, wow, I can't just live in any country I want to. I just was profoundly surprised when I discovered that as a teenager. I can't just... There was a limit, you know what I mean? And yet the limits provide a framework for creativity and a pushing. You can extend a limit potentially if you're pushing against it, but there's a safe space to start with, and then if you build your identity within a team, you can potentially then move from that position, but it's almost like there's scaffolding around you. Yeah,
it's a little bit like growing up, isn't it? Which is that you actually need something to push against.
Yes, like your parents.
Your parents usually. Everybody take a deep breath. But you need that, and if you actually have nothing to push against,
100%, then you're not a more well-rounded adult. You're not a more capable, resilient, well-rounded, well-formed adult. You're not.
And I think, the challenge for the church is that it has sought to create such firm boundaries that people can't, the people who try and push against them will be punished or kicked out, right?
Yeah.
Rather than that thing and sometimes parents are tempted to do the same thing.
Some parents do it.
Yeah. But the encouragement here is, what does that healthy tension look like in collectives?
For me, context is really, really useful for working out how we move forward. One of the keys is understanding where we've come from and what's formed this moment that we're in. And this idea of holding tension is something I've embraced viscerally. Like in my life, I choose to hold tension all the time between ideas and feelings, and when I'm working with people who think differently. And it's hard, it's challenging. But this idea of having a healthy tension is, I think, really important when, as human beings, it makes perfect sense for us to want consensus and ease and comfort. And in fact, the idea that this discomfort could be good for us, ultimately, is radical and, I suspect, accurate. Now I'd love to read you a quote by Dietrich Bonhoeffer. We'll call it a sacred text. He was a pastor in Germany who was actually executed for his part in a plot to kill Hitler. So he was speaking from a time a while ago when you could say your mind pretty plainly. If you're able to hold the tension and listen, see what shows up for you. Those who love their dream of a Christian community more than they love the Christian community itself become destroyers of that Christian community, even though their personal intentions may be ever so honest, earnest, and sacrificial. God hates this wishful dreaming because it makes the dreamer proud and pretentious. Those who dream of this idolized community demand that it be fulfilled by God, by others, and by themselves. They enter the community of Christians with their demands set up by their own law and judge one another and God accordingly. It is not we who build. Christ builds the church. Whoever is mindful to build the church is surely well on the way to destroying it, for he will build a temple to idols without wishing or knowing it. We must confess he builds. We must proclaim he builds. We must pray to him, and he will build. We do not know his plan. We cannot see whether he is building or pulling down. It may be that the times which by human standards are the times of collapse are for him the great times of construction. It may be that the times which from a human point are great times for the church are times when it's pulled down. It is a great comfort which Jesus gives to his church. You confess, preach, bear witness to me, and I alone will build where it pleases me. Do not meddle in what is not your providence. Do what is given to you and do it well, and you will have done enough. Live together in the forgiveness of your sins. Forgive each other every day from the bottom of your hearts. I think we'll just let that quote sit. If you like this episode, feel free to share it with a friend who you think might also appreciate it. And honestly, if you leave us a review on your podcast player of choice, it is so great. Thank you in advance for if you ever do that, because it's useful. It helps other people find us. If you ever want to hang out online, we're at Sunday Sanctuary NZ on Instagram, and that's where we often ask our community questions, so you can have your say.
Sunday Sanctuary with Petra Bagust.
World, the time has come to. World, the time has come to. Galvanise. Come on.
That was a little taste of Galvanise by the Chemical Brothers. Church is a community-oriented topic. It's a place of many voices. So we went to you, our community, and asked, how would you describe your experience of church? This is what we got. It varies. Really enjoying some fresh ways on doing faith communities. Another said, welcoming, alive and friendly. Love worship. I have some Sundays off where I chill at home quietly though. Another described their experience of church as whānau and a village like no other through all highs and lows of life. Another person said, alienating. There was also, when it comes to my experience, it's long and complicated, but I love the church. And finally, I was getting really cynical about the church until I joined Twitter and saw that the same tribal dynamics playing out in political and other cultural cliques made me realise that so much of the stuff I hated about church wasn't necessarily a church problem. It was a human problem. After a while, I consciously got more involved, and that shifted something in me from being the guy on the sidelines throwing rocks to being part of the team, trying to do this well in spite of a myriad of challenges and plain old human brokenness. Thank you so much for your contribution. Now, as has become our custom, we're going to reflect on the ancient practice of communion, a ritual started by Jesus the night before he died. Okay, the teachers gathered his closest followers to celebrate the Jewish Passover. This is a ritual that's been taking place for years and years and years. It's a very important day in the Jewish calendar. And the teacher knows it's his last. The 12 men who eat with him would later, that very night, go on to abandon him. In fact, one of his closest friends, Peter, would say he never knew him 3 times in an effort to save his own skin. Humans can be like that. And this is to say nothing of Judas, who would turn his rabbi, his teacher, over to the authorities for a handful of coins. Jesus could be forgiven for closing himself off from these people, from protecting himself or withdrawing. It would be entirely understandable or justifiable even for him to refuse to share a crumb of a meal with his crowd of fair weather friends. The accounts underscore this, portraying Christ with a melancholy and unsettling awareness of what was about to take place. Abandonment, denial, betrayal. And yet, in that moment, Christ reinterprets this meal as a way to offer himself. The bread is my body broken for you. The wine is my blood poured out for you. Yes, even you. In this meal, the worst of our human impulses, failings and lack is met with the most profound provision of grace. Looking back over the checkered history of the Christian church, it's not actually that surprising that this institution, made of and full of fallible human beings, has been at times a corrupt and destructive force in our world. What I find more surprising is the times when, hey, it's kind of worked. From acts of grand historical import to small, unseen generosity, there have been so many people who didn't let their pain have the last word. They learned from Christ to overcome evil with good. So, when I come to the table, alongside the mess of humanity I call my brothers and sisters in Christ, I'm grateful for his invitation to me. Yes, even me.
Sunday Sanctuary.
Coming up, we'll have the second part of the conversation with myself and In the Shift host Michael Frost, But now here's a waiata called Get Together by the Youngbloods.
Love is but a song we sing, feels the way we die. You can make the mountains ring, or make the angels cry. Though the bird is on the wing, and you may not know why. Come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, try to love one another right now. Some may come and some may go, we will surely pass. When the one that left us here returns for us at last, we are but a moment's sunlight fading in the grass. Come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, try to love one another right now. Come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, try to love one another right now. Come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, try to love one another right now. If you hear the song I sing, you will understand. Listen. You hold the key to love and fear, all in your trembling hand. Just one key unlocks them both, it's there at your command. Come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, try to love one another right now. Come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, try to love one another right now. I said, come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, try to love one another right now. Right now, right now.
What about the spiritual element? What about the mystery inside of faith community?
Yeah, and this is interesting, isn't it? Because church community is not just gathering and ritual and practice. It is also connected to this idea that collectively we are seeking to engage with, encounter, experience, be transformed by God.
Yeah.
And again, I am coming to think about that in much more communal, collective ways than in individual ways.
Yeah.
And I think, for me, one of the ways in which I read and understand something like the story of Jesus and what Jesus shows us about God is not just that God is experienced in the what we might classically call the spiritual kind of
Realm.
or
Space.
and you know, like, so directly kind of prayer, which I could do by myself, and actually song, which I could also do by myself, just to a less interesting degree. But sure, I could pull out my guitar at home. But there's something in the experience of God actually being made known to us in the faces and bodies of others around us who are different from us. It's not to discount also the more direct kind of spiritual, what we would call typically direct kind of, maybe vertical,
The
even
spiritual
though
disciplines?
yeah, you know, that stuff that's I'm thinking about me and God, you know.
Yes.
And I want to acknowledge that and continue to explore that and embrace that and encourage that.
Are you doing a yes and?
Yeah, I'm doing a yes and. But yeah, there's something I discover about God. You know, we were doing a Visio Divina, if you're familiar, but that's like
I know a Lectio
a Lectio Divina.
There are many Divinas, it turns out.
Yeah, there's a bunch of Divinas.
What's a Visio?
You can chuck anything if you want in front of a Divina.
It's divine,
So,
darling.
Lectio Divina is the engagement, you know, this reflective
Scripture,
meditation
and you
on
read
a
it.
text.
Text.
Visio Divina is
Visual?
visual. It's a piece of art, perhaps, something like that, or an icon.
Nice.
And we were doing one in our church gathering. And it was, I think, of Jesus on the storm and the boat. And I had everyone, you know, look at this picture, contemplate it for a few minutes, and then ask, you know, what stands out to you? How's God speaking to you? And the first thing someone said, which was a woman in our community, said, there are no women in this picture. You know, that was the first thing she noticed. And that was not something I had noticed at all for some mysterious reason. And, you know, and as someone who would like to think of myself as, you know,
A feminist.
A feminist.
Yeah.
What was great to me about that moment is that it reminded me of some ways in which I am still very much shaped by these kind of more historic patriarchal ways of not just of relating to God even, or of telling the story of God and reflecting on and engaging with God. And so her reflection on that gave me a moment to open up to something else that I wouldn't have had I been sitting at home with that picture by myself, reflecting and drawing all my wonderful inspiration about the good Lord in my life. You know, like
I do.
There's something meaningful about that.
So I palpably feel it, right? Like when you say that, I feel that if we are able to sit in a space that isn't defensive, you can see an aspect of who or how God is through that comment. You're like, oh, yes, and like it shines maybe something on you, and it could express something of how God feels about women, for example. And if that was a defensive position that you were holding, she might be a problematic woman who was bringing up things that weren't relevant.
Right.
Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
sure, yeah.
In a system that is more closed or more defensive, then people who speak out against that system, they are the problem. They are the issue. Whereas for me, there's a robustness and a health in being able to say, okay, I hear your complaint, or I hear your issue, or I hear the point you're raising. Let's look at it. Let's look at what you're saying, how I can receive it, what you're commenting on, and work out where the goodness is, where the truth is, whatever that we're looking for. That feels like relationship.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the pressure that church leaders, pastors experience, pressure internally in themselves, maybe from their community, but often from themselves as well, is to be the person who delivers the answers to the community, you know. And I think that in the end is bad for everybody. I think because I just
Terrible.
yeah, because when you're the person who has to have the answers, then you have to be defensive, because otherwise someone's denting your authority to
Yes.
be the one with the answers. And
Yes.
if people start to question that, then what else do you?
Yeah, you're being accused of being a charlatan and
Yeah, you know.
subversively.
I mean, when we think about like church, I mean, you participate in church community,
Yes.
one that I happen to also participate in. Are we allowed to say that?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. That's my whole thing here. It's going to be key to church growth. Just,
Brilliant.
but it is a particularly unimpressive community in many respects.
It is remarkably unimpressive.
So why do you participate in it? You know, not like you know, you are a person who I could look at from the outside and say, here's a person who has connections in her life, who has friendships.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you've got a
Family.
network of community.
Yep. Meaning in my work.
You've got meaning in your work. And if you were to engage in something like church, I can imagine you looking for somewhere that was...
Pick a successful one.
Yeah. Like, I'm not... Knowing you as I do,
Yeah.
I don't think that about you. But,
Yeah.
like, why have you stuck with this funny old church that's sort of just moseyed its way
Yeah.
off the chart of success towards towards something different?
It's a good question, which is
And
what
you
people
say. The amazing
Oh, the amazing leadership. It's the kaitiaki. That's why. Sorry, I didn't pick that up. Sorry. Wow, missed opportunity. Having been with this community more than 15 years now, I don't remember when I first got involved, but just to me, it's fascinating. The experience of being a human for me is about remembering and forgetting often. And I went to church after being working quite a few weekends. I was away working, and I went back to church on Sunday, and it was like I could breathe. It was like breathing in. It was inhaling and exhaling and being held in a, I would say, more than physical way, in a spiritual way. I felt at home and I felt tended to, and I received something. And it might have been cerebral. You might have said something really clever that day and I might have really appreciated it. But it was more than that. And it wasn't that I hadn't seen X, Y, or Z for ages, but I might have seen somebody and been like, oh, so lovely to see them. So there's all these physical elements. And look, again, I'm not answering very clearly, but there's a goodness to it. There's a resonance to a spiritual community for me that exists even when I forget. So I will get into a little space where I'm like, oh gosh, I don't know, with this church, maybe I need to go somewhere else. You know, just fell out of kind of the groove.
Yeah.
And I think that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. And went to a lovely bilingual church and thought, I love this. I could add this to my life. And was kind of questioning things. But that coming back to just the realness of it, just the fact that it's a room full of people, some of whom I know, most of whom I have met, but I just think there is something very special about it, and I just need I need some people I know to be there. I need God to be there, and God's everywhere all the time. So why church? Do you know what I mean? But to sing out loud with a group of people, to position myself, to right size myself as not the author and creator of my whole life. It's a relief to do that, and it's additive. Yeah, I encounter different ways of thinking. I encounter the baking that people bring now that we're too small. That it's possible to bake for our church. We're just small enough where you can bring baking and it feeds the church.
Yeah.
It's so great.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it feels located as well. Even though I know other people travel, it's close to my home. So I feel like it's accessible to me. And I've said, I never need to hear another preach in my life. I've I've been going to church since I was 5. So that's nearly 50 years of it. But it's not strictly speaking true, because the community is much more than an intellectual experience. And I enjoy learning new things. So when I engage with a fresh idea or a fresh perspective, that's additive. And when I can offer an idea or something that's additive, it feels that walking in a direction, one foot in front of another, even though it's not fireworks and it's not revival and it's not, like the hot church. We've been the hot church. That had its upside. The singing was sensational because there were so many voices. But all of that, I think I like the journey of the valley, the hills, the creeks, the byways, the highways. I think it feels like life. And that life feels good.
Yeah, that's nice. I like that.
That was a long answer.
I liked it. That's the new spiel on our website now. I'll write that down.
The highways,
This
the byways, the creeks. I hope you enjoyed my chat with Michael Frost, and as I said at the beginning of this episode, if you want to hear the whole kōrero, you can find it on In the Shift. I'm going to give you a quote from a recent interview with pop star Rosalia about her new album, Lux. And she said that this album's partly inspired by the stories of formidable women of the church, such as Hildegard of Bingen and St. Olga of Kiev. The journo says the religiosity on Lux isn't window dressing. And then quotes Rosalia. I pray every night before I fall asleep, she says. It's a very personal relationship with God. Her grandmother and namesake would take Rosalia and her sister Pilla to church as kids. She is very Catholic, says Rosalia. I remember the ritual of it, the beauty of everybody holding hands, no matter who was beside you, and the singing. I really love La Communion, that's generated when humans gather and they project themselves towards something that is bigger than them. She reads the Bible as much as she can. I really like San Mateo, the Gospel of Matthew. Everything he says, I think it's bars, she says, likening Bible verses to rap lyrics. So I shall leave you with that to think on. You can find In the Shift wherever you get your podcasts. One place you could start is episode 104. It's a conversation Michael has with James Beck called Earthiness, Spirituality and Relational Resonance. That episode and the In the Shift website are linked in our episode description. I'll leave you now with a benediction. This is called A Blessing for Knowing and Being Known. Blessed are we with eyes to see the person right in front of us. Not solely their faults or some future version of themselves or the way they always do that thing that drives you nuts, but as poetry incarnate, as treasures to behold. Blessed are you who notice the light in their eyes, or when that light dims, you who scoot up close to their suffering, though you might not have the right words to say, you who bear witness to their life in its entirety, the joys, the sorrows, the unfinishedness of it all. You who cherish every story, even if you've heard it before, listening without judgment and without haste. May your careful attention be met with others who see you as the same bright light and wonder that you are. As you practice seeing and being seen, may you remember that you too are a blessing to all who have the privilege to know you.